We have been hearing a lot lately from Elon Musk about our government and how it should be run. And of course, as the co-leader of the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, Musk has a lot of ideas for things to cut, including his call to, quote, delete the CFPB. Musk suggested on X last month that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is just not necessary. And according to the Washington Post, Trump and some Republicans in Congress are open to the idea of limiting the agency, which has long been a target of conservative ire. The CFPB was the brainchild of Elizabeth Warren before she was in the Senate. It was created after the 2008 financial crisis as part of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. The CFPB is an independent bureau within the Federal Reserve System. Broadly, the CFPB protects you, the American consumer, from financial abuses. It protects consumers from unfair, deceptive, or abusive practices in the financial marketplace. It ensures fairness and transparency when it comes to mortgages, credit cards, and other consumer financial products like college and retirement planning. The CFPB sets and enforces clear rules for banks and other financial institutions, and it acts as a watchdog for consumers against predatory lending and other harmful financial practices. Think of it as the entity that stands up for you if you've been wronged by a company or financial institution. In an op-ed for the Boston Globe, Senator Warren shared a real-life example of one way the Bureau can help the consumer. She writes, quote, suppose you take out a car loan with Wells Fargo. Month after month, you make your payments, but the bank messes up. Maybe they piled on fees you didn't owe or charged you the wrong interest rate. On their end, it looks like you've fallen behind on your payments, so they repossess your car. Now you can't get to work or take your kids to school. What are your options? Can't afford to sue. The police won't help. Before the CFPB, about all you could do was reach out to the bank's customer service and beg them to solve the problem, get left on hold, transferred from department to department, and end up nowhere. That was it, until the CFPB, end quote. That example was not hypothetical. It really happened. People filed a complaint with the CFPB, and according to Warren, the agency took on the bank, stopped the repossessions, and ordered the bank to pay back the consumers who had been wronged, all without a lawsuit or endless hours on the phone. According to the CFPB, since its creation, the agency has recovered more than $21 billion in restitution and canceled debts for tens of millions of consumers. An LA Times op-ed explains why billionaires like Elon Musk might be against the CFPB and why its guardrails are so crucial. Quote, on one side are a handful of Wall Street bankers, payday lenders, and Silicon Valley billionaires who make money by breaking the rules. On the other side are the vast majority of Americans who benefit from and value the Bureau's crucial work, but don't have a billionaire's megaphone, end quote. Joining me now is Rohit Chopra, the director of the CFPB. I only say that, Rohit, to make it clear that this isn't some kind of novel thinking on Elon Musk's part. But let's set the scene. I tried to sort of give some good examples of the CFPB, but what happens if Musk gets his way and the CFPB were to go away? What would happen? How would it affect the lives of Americans?
Well, I think you really teed it up well, which is that Wall Street, they don't really want a watchdog. They want a lapdog that will roll over and play dead when laws are being broken. We have taken so many enforcement actions against big banks and other companies that have broken the law. That means that those financial companies would be pocketing billions and billions of dollars and making life miserable for so many Americans. We have seen how credit card companies have been gouging people with fees and interest, how student loan companies have not been enrolling people in the right payment plan. The list goes on. And the CFPB isn't controversial anywhere except with lobbyists in Washington. And I think this is a great example of why we need clear law enforcement that is willing to take down crime that targets consumers.
And let's go back to when it was formed. One of the issues were that there were some people, borrowers in particular, who felt that they didn't understand what they were getting into, which is, by the way, for anybody who's ever taken a loan, a car mortgage, a credit card, a house mortgage, it's complex. And one of the things the CFPB was there to do was to say, quite simply, tell people what they're committing to, what their rate will be, how much they will pay, what the total cost of the loan is, even some basic stuff. There's no reason to oppose that kind of basic disclosure and fairness. And yet, given the choice, banks and companies will.
Yeah, and some of it is pretty straightforward. We don't want companies taking kickbacks by steering you into a mortgage that you'll end up in foreclosure with. We don't want a student loan or credit card system where you're surprised or shocked with big fees. So we do a few things. We arm people with the information to actually decide. And for those companies that skirt the law, we take them to court. I also really feel, Ali, that it is important for Americans to be able to go somewhere. I see it every day where they are talking to a chatbot and in some endless doom loop can't get their credit report fixed. They can't get their mortgage bill fixed for the payment that they gave. But when people come to the CFPB, we require those companies to respond, and every single day, problems get fixed. So this is really something that I think is part of a broader plan to make it clear that there are some large, well-connected companies that they won't have to follow the law. They'll be able to do whatever they want while the rest of us end up suffering. And we can't really have a system where people are getting ripped off with impunity and no one is taking any action at all.
So, in fact, everybody watching this should think, I would like to protect the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. What does that look like right now? Is there a mechanism for the CFPB to defend itself against this effort? And if not, where does the defense of a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau come from?
Well, we'll see. But every time that people try and defund law enforcement that polices Wall Street, we have seen a lot of pushback from all corners, not just one political party or another, because people realize they do not want a sequel to the subprime mortgage crisis again. That was a time when there was clear violations across the country. And you know what happened? The entire economy crashed. Millions of people lost their home. And we cannot have amnesia about that. We do not want that to occur again. And we also want to prepare for the next set of scams that are coming to people. The CFPB this week sued J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America for allowing fraud to fester on the payment app called Zelle. We're trying to make it easier for people to switch their accounts, to get lower rates and fees on credit cards. So we cannot just pause. We cannot simply stop, or else the whole economy will pay a big price for it.
There are a lot of people who voted because of the economy, because of the price of what they pay. This should be of grave concern to them, because while the cost of goods is more expensive than it was several years ago, the costs of banking, the costs of sending money, the costs of doing all sorts of things is in danger of eating up a bigger and bigger piece of people's income. If you get a paycheck in this country, you should want a government institution that supports you versus the banks and the financial institutions and the companies of this country.
Yeah, and you shouldn't want people to have to waste their time being transferred in a call center from agent to agent who simply won't help you. You need someone or some agency that is going to actually have your back. Look, we have seen the incoming administration talk about the need to cap credit card interest rates. Credit card interest rates have gotten so out of control. They're making one of the fattest margins they have in decades. There's lots of places where there can be bipartisan agreement to rein in some of the price gouging on financial products. There's a lot we can do to fix people's credit reports where they have systemic inaccuracies, to not allow medical debt turn into another crisis like student debt. So we really have to make sure that common sense prevails rather than people just taking the orders from Wall Street lobbyists.
Rohit, thanks for making time for us this morning. We appreciate it. Rohit Chopra is the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.